Good evening, good evening. How is
Yup.
everybody doing? All good?
All good, mate, all good.
I've just had a low internet warning pop up on my computer, which I've never had before. So I was just like, ah!
Well, I think I'm back after my 30-second complete tech failure.
Yeah, it's a classic for anyone that doesn't know, because I know we've obviously got quite a lot of like long-term listeners on here, and we start every episode, and then it just seems to be there's always just some little gremlin in the system somewhere, and it's literally, we try and get online maybe sort of 15-20 minutes before, just to kind of give it a bit of a test or whatever, and there's always literally fine. Just as you click go, it's just like, oh
mate, I don't know, I couldn't tell you, I can't even pinpoint what it is. Literally, I've been sat here for like 15-20 minutes. Yeah, camera's all good, that's all good, la la. And as soon as I come in and join the studio, it just goes I'm like yeah, brilliant, yeah, test me.
Oh, it's just a classic, innit? It just goes to show that no matter how much preparation you can
even JC, Gaz, Sean, Dave, Reese.
Yeah.
Oh, I've looked forward to that.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad it's Friday.
Same as me. I've got great big enormous news. I'm gonna jump straight into it, mate, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So, Mission Tailors.
Oh, yes, of course.
The legend, that is.
I thought you were going to say like you're pregnant or something.
So I've got a second. Well, actually, having said that, no, this is naughty of me. Smack. I think great big news. Congratulations to Mr. Howe, Paul.
Yeah.
For the birth of his gorgeous little girl. Yeah, let's do that first, because that's far more important than what I'm holding in my hand. Sorry, Mission Tailors, you don't have to wait.
Yeah. So for everyone that doesn't know, basically Paul, lovely missus gave birth earlier in the week. So we're all sort of sending our congratulations to them.
Yeah, congratulations to the Howe family.
Obviously, that's why Paul's not here tonight. A little bit busy.
Yeah, it's a relatively reasonable excuse. I think we can let him have that one. So yeah, congratulations,
Simon,
guys.
Wayne, Rage, Terry, Mark. Hello.
Yeah, so anyhow.
Right, yeah, go on then, Lance. Go on, get your.
So Mission Tailors. Oh, right. So this is my second comms pouch. So we've had the Mark 1. This is the Mark. No, it's not really. It's a complete joke. But this is
Rage's comms pouch.
This is the new dangler. This is it in all its glory. So this is what I've had Mission Tailors working on for me. I've not seen one out on the market similar to this at all. So it's relatively unique. Elasticated loops on the bottom there for a tourniquet or anything like that. Mark 5s, I'm sure you could get a cluster of them in there. Probably wouldn't want to run them in that bit, but it will hold them. It's very elasticated, real nice and tight. I've got two slightly elongated 9mm pistol mag pouches, which you can run obviously your mags in. Nice D rings. I mean, the stitching, the quality, again, it's faultless. I couldn't fault it. I've got my mutt tool in there, and on the other side, I'm running a little tack light in there as well. But again, you can run two 9mm pistol mags. Obviously, nice and central. Saves you having your mags to the side there at the front. Easy to get to with the big D rings. It's got a main compartment pocket, and what I've had Mission Tailors do is move the actual zipper right to the very front edge of the dangler. So these 9mm mag pouches won't encroach on you being able to get into the front of it. Still, you can see there if it's upright, that still opens fully. Loads of room in there for all your essentials, an IFAK, anything like that, phone. It's got a very slight slimline pocket onto the front. Again, for maps, a bit of admin in there, a notepad right in the rain, notepad, anything like that. And again, a little bit of molly on the front, all multicam to add any additional bits and bobs that you might want to do. But that is a pucker bit of kit. I'm well happy with it. Ultra strong. I mean, that is first class. So Mission Tailors, you've done it once again. Thank you very much, sir. You're an absolute star. So that's my bit of news for the week. I've been very excited. Nice. It's been a few weeks coming. Yay!
I'm getting paid soon, and I've got a little list of things that I'm sending to him. So yeah, I've actually got something unique as well that I'm working on. So I'll say
he's got a unique thing. Good.
Yeah, because I was talking to Lance about this in the week. Basically, I've come up with a load of ideas for stuff that I really want Mission Tailors to make me. Because I can't buy the actual thing I've already got in multicam in OD for my OD loadout and put it together. So most of the things I would creations of stuff that I already own in just a different color, but I have actually come up with an idea for something now. So
is this Molly, Mike? It's not the big M in Molly, is it?
No. I've also We've also had a little bit of progress on the patches, by the way. So I'm hoping we should have some actual proper news to show people at some point. And lastly, I spoke to my mum. So I know Gaz, you're quite interested in this. I spoke to my mum, and potentially we do actually have a way, Lance, your camera's gone, of doing these medic bandages. So I still need to work out the details of that, but it's something that we could potentially actually do. So,
hang on.
Got lots of symbols. Apparently, you've unplugged something.
I am.
There we go. Cool.
I did actually do a little drum roll on my desk then. The camera went off. I was like, right, won't do that again. What did I touch? Nothing.
Oh, right. So let's get into it. Hello again to everyone that's joined us in the chat. We have 12 people watching. It's always nice to see everybody. There's a few regulars, a few new people. So welcome for joining. Well, welcome and thanks for joining us, even. Some of those words in that order. Tonight, we are talking about shelter systems. So all things hammocks, bashas, tents. I think Tim earlier sent me a photo of a caravan as well. So if you've got a tactical caravan, go for it. Awesome. So we're going to roll straight off the bat with bashas. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got a lot of images of bashas and stuff. We obviously started this podcast and then everything went into lockdown, which is thus making it a little bit difficult for content. However, I have the power of Google.
Rah! Look at that!
So these are
bashas. Yes.
And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because obviously bashas have an absolute multitude of ways that you can obviously set them up. I have a couple photos of the traditional sort of the top left, sort of the normal sort of like little mini tent, I guess you'd call it.
Your little A-frame sort of type setup. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a number of other ways. Now, I know, Lance, you were playing around with a couple of different styles. Because I know you've also got your poncho basher, I believe.
Yes, I have, mate. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the basher, it's such a versatile piece of material, if you like, which you can, and shown in them images there. I mean, it's a great selection of images you've got there. I mean, there's a few there that I haven't even tried, but I mean, you can manipulate it into so many different styles and arrangements of shelter, and it takes up such little room in your kit. I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer, and even from ground sleeping shown there, you can set it up for a hammock. I mean, it's the go-to bit of shelter especially if you're lightweight, wild camping, backpacking, something like that. MilSim, like if you're not in hard cover, if you've not got an actual proper fob to go back to, or you're not dossing down in a building or something like that. If you're out in a wood block, I mean, you can't really go far wrong than having a basher especially for a starter level. If you're going in for your first MilSim and that, then yeah, just an ex-surplus basher. They're 20-25 quid, guys. I mean, and they're a wicked bit of kit. You haven't got necessarily go down the surplus route. You can get, like, I think DD tarps. You can get them for the DD Hammocks series. There's hundreds of. I mean, it's essentially a big rectangle or oversized rectangle of waterproof sheeting.
Well, you say that. Here's a question for you. Obviously, bashers come in hugely different sizes. So, what size basher have you got? Because I sort of started off with the old ex-MOD basher. No, actually, that's a lie. I started off with a Viper type one, which was quite small. It was really plasticky. It was a bit weird. I then ordered an MOD one, an ex-MOD one. And then I've recently been looking up the DD tarps, which I think got to like a 5x5 meter.
They're monstrous. I've got one for camping, for like the family camping, which I think is a 3x4. And I basically set it up. I think if you look at them images there, top row, second in from the left, which is almost like the floating basher, like that, basically. But I use two large poles at each end and have it guide out so you can literally walk underneath it. Big sort of social shelter where we could socialise, of course, 8 years ago. So that I use that for that. I mean, but predominantly from a MilSim point of view, I use a standard MOD basher, which sometimes when you're hammocking, it can be a little bit snug at keeping the whole thing undercover.
That's why I was looking at the DD ones.
But the only thing you can do with an MOD one is put it up like a diamond. So rather than having it go in parallel with the guy line, so your ridge line, you extend your ridge line up and you throw your basher over it and you peg out all four corners. If you put a corner to the tree, basically that's it. Yeah, so you could get away with it if you've got an MOD basher, you can get away with doing it that way, like that. Which is basically like, in essence, when you're laying down, you'd have the basher as a diamond over the top of you, as opposed to being a square or rectangle, if you follow me, like the standard A-frame sort of type. And that gives you plenty of cover. But I mean, I think a lot of guys go for a 3x3, if I'm honest. That's been the sort of standard size basher tarp. shelter cover, if you like, as a 3x3, and not too dissimilar in price, I don't think.
So, for a fun fact, a standard British Army basher is 2.56 by 2.16.
Yeah.
So call it 2.6 by 2.2.
But
I would recommend getting something a little bit bigger if you can.
Certainly a 3x3.
That being said, the 5x5 to me seems a little bit over the top.
That's enormous.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at it, to be fair, as forming like so when we're obviously out in the woods playing. That sounds dirty. When we're out in the woods playing airsoft, obviously it's nice to have like a little social area, everyone sort of that you can locate in. This is pre-COVID, but so that's one of the reasons I was looking at the 5x5, because I thought if we could rig it up, almost like a second image in, it's just a nice big area. Yeah, exactly. Stips made a good point. If you got too big a tarp, it becomes a sail in the wind.
Yeah,
exactly that. So I mean, even with hammock camping and stuff like that, which we'll come on to, I don't want to sort of strain to that too early. Even with hammock camping, I try and get the basher relatively close to the ground for exactly that reason. It sort of stops wind getting under it and blowing it around.
That's it, mate. Exactly. I mean, like I say, if you are on the ground, you're ground sleeping sort of thing, you're not using a hammock or anything like that. Again, the buddy system, and you can quite comfortably get 2 guys underneath the one basher with your kit. However, if you've got a basher each, then there's nothing stopping you to making an extended A-frame shelter out of it. Again, if you look at, I suppose, best figure to use would be the second row, 4th from the left. So that one there, yep. And obviously you'd direct your basher that way, and then obviously your pal on the other side would do the complete opposite to you, and then obviously extends it out. And it's just overlapping their bashers and that, and stopping the wind and rain getting up underneath it. Again, perfect examples, and it's such a versatile bit of kit, guys. I mean, I don't think you could find another shelter that does as much as what a basher can do, really. I mean, tents are great, don't get me wrong, but essentially that's all you can do with it. It is a tent. I mean, what else is there to say about it? It's a tent. It comes with poles, 2 poles, one either end, or a selection of flexible poles, which you'd make it to a dome tent or something like that. But essentially, it is a tent, and that is it. But this can be used for multiple. So you can turn it into a sleeping bag cover. You can turn it into an emergency bivvy bag, stretcher. I mean, it's just a wicked bit of kit. So yeah, personally, for me, if I had to choose one shelter, it would be a basher all day long with some paracord and jungle knots and bits and bobs like that to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing as well, obviously, if you've got hard ground or if you're going inside, so I mean, we've played before in a couple of places which are like large, or stayed in like large warehouse type sort of open buildings. You can use a basher in those as a screen as well, or you can use it as a to be fair, you can even just have it like the side of a wall or something like that. If tent, a lot of tents that you find aren't actually self-supporting. A lot of them need to have the guy lines and things in the ground to actually hold them up. So as soon as you hit hard ground, that's completely redundant.
I mean, you've got them pop tents, the pop-up tent sort of thing. Which you could use as well.
They
I mean,
I've never owned one as well to them, I think. But.
Yeah. So
I know Simon's in the chat. I will run through a couple of comments in a sec, but Simon sent the photo in earlier, so I just thought I'd show that one. So this is Simon's setup at one of the MilSims he was at, or events. I don't know if it necessarily was a MilSim. It could have been a really, really elaborate skirmish. But yes, I mean, this is obviously a good little sort of show of how you would sort of actually stay under it. So you've obviously got your sleeping system and everything like that. You've got the sort of sheltered bit behind there. It's nice and easy. So
that's it, mate. Like I say, it's a very simple. And I mean, if it's going to be like sort of ultra realistic, if you like, if the event you're on, and like I've said before, if your harbour area can get bumped by the opposing force, and you do have to leave that area, taking a basher down and chucking away a couple of bungee cords or some jungle knots is a lot quicker than having to break down a tent. Try and get it packed away without ripping it or tearing the poles out of it. Taking that down, I mean, you should be able to dismantle that in 30 seconds, something like that, really. Scrunch up into a ball and just stuff it in your Bergen along with your sleep kit, and you're good to go, really. I mean, there's that side of it, and obviously putting it up as well. Again, it's simple. You've either got your two basher poles if you're in open area, or you've got your bit of paracord for your ridge line. You'd sling it over the top. You peg out all 4 corners, or if you want to bring it in close, you can do all 6. And that's it. It's done. It's such a simple. And for a beginner, and for someone who's not got the largest amount of field craft knowledge, perhaps, I mean, learning to, oh God, this camera's gone again. I can't believe it. Anyhow, learning to put one of these up is, it's an hour, if that, of just getting your confidence with it and that, and, making sure if it's rigid and tight and it's all your guidelines and that are out correctly. And it's a nice, simple system to learn to use. And obviously that gives you confidence going into an event that you think, yeah, well, I've got my shelter squared away, sleeping bag and DOS bag, and that's all quite very self-explanatory. That all goes in there. I mean, and you're done. You're out the rain, you're out the wind, you're keeping your kit dry. It's got your own personal bit of space to get to if you need to. There's a cracking little bit of kit, that is. So
I want to hit on some top tips that we sort of vaguely alluded to so far, which is obviously bungees. Bungees, Lance has gone completely now. Bungees are great at replacing like really difficult knots, because obviously you can just wrap a bungee around the tree, connect it to itself, and there you go, it's already connected. You can obviously tie up the basher with that. Here it comes. I was just saying, Lance, about bungees. Really, really good alternative to just having loads and loads of paracord. And obviously it's reusable. Paracord, it can get a bit... you can reuse it, but you've got to keep untying the knots and things. And after it gets wet or whatever, it's a bit of a pain in the neck to do. Yeah,
it can. I mean, bungees are good. I mean, obviously, you've got to be very careful with them, because if one of them does go, you have got essentially a metal hook coming back at you at quite a fast rate of knots.
Pun the pun.
I mean, I've used them. Don't get me wrong, everyone's used them, of course they have. But I mean, jungle knots on the other hand. I mean, that's a different beast altogether. I mean, that's a fast way of putting up a shelter. If you've got jungle knots onto a minimum of the four corners of your basher, and then obviously the central eyelets as well at the top, so where your ridge line would be at your basher. If you've got jungle knot lines out there for sort of 2 or 3 meters either end, you run that around the tree and you run the knot back through itself a couple of times, and that's it. It's tight then. And then to undo it, you just literally just pull it, and the knot pops out, and it's gone. It's down. There's no messing about. There's no tying bows and this, that, and the other. So if for jungle knots, if you've not put them on your basher, then yeah, I highly recommend them, because obviously as well, because there's all the knots at different increments all the way along the line. And when it comes to pegging it out at the four corners, you can adjust it. You can let some line out, let some line in, just tie it up and tie it off on itself to keep it bunched up, so you're not going to cause a trip hazard or anything. But yeah, jungle knots for me personally, this is what I go to all day long, definitely.
Cool. Another point. I know that Mark is in the chat. Mark loves digging a hole.
Yeah, shell scrape or digging a hole. And by doing that as well, and Mark is absolutely right. It's keeping that basher as low to the ground as possible, especially in a tactical situation, if you like. You want to stay low profile, out of the way. It's easier to camo it up. Obviously, you still need to keep that ridge line on there for the water to run off and stuff like that. And obviously, if you're digging in underneath the basher, keep the hole you're digging slightly smaller than the actual surface area that the basher will cover. Obviously, for water runoff and stuff like that. But yeah, keeping it low to the ground and digging yourself in, was a great bit of fun. And who loves not digging holes? Great. I love digging an angry hole when I've got the ump about something.
Right, let's jump into the chat for a bit. So Gaz said, before we get stuck in, are you lads going to the Arabs weekend? We are planning to.
Yes.
So obviously, assuming that COVID and everything goes well, I believe that we're looking to join as part of the civilian mob. So I know we're very interested to go. We obviously haven't committed to anything yet, because obviously, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, fingers crossed. We, as far as anything else goes, yeah, I'm definitely attending it. But there's other things that could stop that happening. Yeah. But from my point of view, yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, same. So maybe see you there, guys. Perhaps. Rage. Yeah, good. I saw this on Instagram earlier. That is Litmate, so that's obviously referring to your new pouch.
Oh, my new pouch. Did I mention I've got a new pouch?
Yeah, you've got a new pouch. Simon says it's unlike Lance to have a pouch on the go. Actually, talking about the stuff that we're talking about, Rage says bashes are great as well for a summer wild camp in the woods with your mates.
That's a little hint to the rest of you there. Stop talking about shelters, all right?
Gaz says if you go down to the woods today, you'll see Lance with his pouches. Yeah.
Oh, boom, boom.
And Gaz says I'll be joining you, Civers, all the way.
Nice one. No, awesome. Perfect.
Marcus, evening. Marcus is the one that's got us involved with the Arabs.
Yes, that's it, exactly.
So big shout out to Marcus there. Yeah.
That's just to add, that is an acronym for something. It's not just a group of Arabs. It is essentially an acronym, isn't it, for an event?
I don't actually know, to be honest.
Yeah,
I just thought it was like a name.
But there's dots after the A and the R and the A, so I'm presuming that is an airsoft related thing.
Okay, I'll go with it. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Well, I might be wrong as well, actually.
I'm going to have to completely rethink my loadout for that weekend now.
Yeah.
Simon says low profile and tactical regarding to bashers and easy to camo up. Of course, I mean, if you've got camo nets and stuff like that, we've played a few games with we've just taken a bag of camo nets and just set them up like screens around the camp. You can't see it. You genuinely couldn't see the camp.
I'll tell you what that was, Mike. That was the DEA event, and it was like midsummer, everything, all the green vegetation and that, and we put camo screens up around our fob, and the amount of times I walked past it, not a clue. Really, really effective. It's good.
So obviously less effective at night. But Jason Sladen, basher is another Indian term like Sanga and Dhobi. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Okay, fair play, mate.
There you go. If we turn it into an educational channel now, Jason, you can come back.
Jason is now teacher for the evening.
Yeah, Jason, if you happen to know how you say shma or shima, referring back to a long previous episode, we couldn't work that one out. Schmag,
Schmag, it was. Show me, anything like
that. Ragefile says, "Do you take poles for your bashes?" So this is an interesting one. I actually took a basher wild camping on Dartmoor, and I used hiking poles. So the two poles I was using for hiking.
Your walking poles, yeah, that's definitely doable, mate.
They worked absolutely well, amazingly for this. I do generally tend to take, interestingly, when I go, actual special poles for these. They're just like the little Miltech ones that just,
just about to try and reach
like a wing nut type thing. It just extends.
I can't reach them.
I guess you could just use sticks, assuming that you've got the right stick there.
Yeah, you could cut something and obviously just sharpen the point a bit so it can go up through the eyelet. I suppose there's nothing wrong with that at all. It all depends. If you're in a wood block, you're not really essentially necessarily you're not going to really need a set of basher poles. But then again, that's all dependent on what setup you're going for. If you're going for a little A-frame, then there's a good chance you probably will do, unless you can find two trees at the correct distance. You can just drop a little A-frame over. But I mean they're not heavy or anything like that, and they do compact down relatively small.
Yeah. There you go.
There we go. Just there.
I mean, I guess you could go proper hardcore and use your rifle if you've got a sniper or something like that. But as soon as you need to fire it, you're going to be
shooting the birds. I'm not shooting you straight on because I'll take my shelter down, so you're gonna have to stand above me.
Rachel said it's when there's no sticks in moorland or non-wooded areas.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, basher poles all day long. Yeah.
So cool. Oh, there we go. Arab stands for Airsoft Rants and Bants Group.
There we go.
Learning something else as well. Cool. Right, so moving on, we are going to be talking about hammocks. I love a hammock. I'm not going to lie. I spent many a MilSim, many an event sleeping on the ground. And then I think we found a hammock popped up. I think Dan, actually, who was on last week, found a hammock on Amazon for like £25.
He did, yeah. And I'm not sure of the brand, but I mean, he's still got it now.
It's like Double Eagle or something like that.
It's got a big eagle's head type thing on the main bag it comes in. It comes with a bag sewn into the hammock, so you can just unpack it and it turns into a little storage pouch on the side of your hammock. And then, obviously, when you come to pack it up, the pockets in the middle, you just fold it all back into this little drawstring pouch. And they're tiny. I mean, they're like that. They're like miniature. Hammocks are a wicked bit of kit. And they're so comfortable. I mean, they're stupid comfy. Like, to the point where it's like, no, I'm not getting out of this. So, bollocks to your night patrol.
Oh, yeah. I've done this many a time. You get proper cozy in a hammock. That's it.
It's like it gets to like summertime, mid-evening. It's still sort of relatively light, 7 p.m. Mike's like, oh, man, my vision's so bad at night, so I'm just going to stay here in the hammock. It's like, Mike, it's still broad daylight. All right, get out of the hammock.
The problem is, I genuinely struggle with anything other than mesh. We will be talking about iPro and FacePro in a later episode. But for all intents and purposes, and I appreciate we're going to have a whole plethora of conversations and arguments about this, but I don't mind mesh. So at night, mesh is awful. I can't see anything. As soon as the light levels drop a certain amount, and I am genuinely concerned about running into a tree, having already done that once. So yeah, I do quite like my hammock. If I need to. I don't mind being on like stag or whatever. As long as I'm not running around, that's the main thing.
Yeah, but that's that goes for anyone, mate. I mean, there's a safety element to that as well. Do you know what I mean? It's if you can't fucking see where you're going at night, then it's not the best, is it?
Especially at some of these lovely sites where they've dug a whole load of very nice, to be fair, trenches and holes in the ground until you're running around.
And you drop down one. Whoop! Where did he go? Last man.
So a couple of things to wanted to kind of spell out really is the amount of insulation that you lose from being elevated off the ground. I know we sort of covered this briefly with the sleeping systems. You definitely need some sort of like underquilt. I think they're called underquilts, aren't they? Or you can use like the roll mats and things like that under you, but you definitely need like an additional layer. In the top left-hand picture of the screen, this lady, I think it's a lady or a man, I can't tell.
Man lady,
with gender nondescript. The light green layer there is an underquilt, and it basically sort of hangs down. It's almost like a hammock shape in itself, and that just hangs down underneath and just provides that extra layer of insulation. And it's basically like a sleeping bag.
And what would you say that you'd require? It would be best to have one of them for like all year round, or is this more like an autumn, winter sort of time, early spring?
I find personally that if as long as it's not the middle of summer, I always take it with me, because I would rather I always err on the side of I'd rather have something and not need it than need it. But then I am also have a massive burden every time I go to these events, and possibly end up with having a load of stuff I don't need.
But I mean, you don't necessarily need a roll mat or a Z mat or anything as such. So would one of those under quilts, is that the same size as a sleeping bag, or is that does it compact down a lot smaller? No,
they are smaller. So I mean, I'm comparing it to my season 4, because I generally tend to use the season 4 with the hammock. Again, you probably don't need the under quilt for that. I've slept very comfortably in my hammock with an under quilt and then basically a whoopee over the top. I mean, the whoopies are relatively thin. They're probably
they're very thin compared to they're almost like a jungle bag sort of thickness, aren't they? Really.
So I mean, I would always err on the side of having an under quilt with a hammock rather than a thicker sleeping bag, because whilst the sleeping bag is good above you, you are obviously laying on the sleeping bag. You're compressing it. You're losing that insulation, and because you're in a hammock and you're elevated off the ground, the air underneath you, is just constantly going past. It's taking the heat away. So I mean, I probably would always take that. It's a question I've not really found myself asking, but I do always take it. So
I don't own one, and I've never used one, and I've never had any problems. I'm not as small as the guys as well, so I've got plenty of my own insulation and wind resistance on there. Nothing like that. I don't think any cold's going to penetrate the hairy arse or anything like that, so it should be all right. But I mean, I've always used my base camp extremer snug pack sleeping bag, or my medium weight British bag in a hammock. I mean, I've never used a hammock in the winter months, I must admit. I've used it into like sort of the autumn, so late summer and the autumn months. But I've never tried one of those sort of wind shields, if you like, the wraparound underquilts, if you like, for the hammock. So yeah, probably something else to go on the list.
Yeah, well, I mean, give mine a go.
Ooh,
if at any point, I guess that might be a bit weird. Maybe we'll get a double hammock and the two of us can try it out together.
Yeah. Okay.
With the hammocks, the ones that we bought have an integrated bug net in as well, so they're very similar to the ones that are on the screen. But you could obviously get them without the integrated bug nets.
Yeah, mine hasn't. Mine hasn't got a bug net on it.
No, I'll be honest with you. I've never used the bug net. I generally just tend to sleep on that because it just tucks into the hammock as it is. I mean, hammocks are also good. They actually provide you a seat off the ground as well. You can sit in them sideways. Yeah. The one thing I don't know if you found this. I'd be interested to hear other people's thoughts that have used them. The first time I used a hammock, I woke up completely unable to walk because the way that you sit in a hammock is obviously like a U shape. So
when you set them up though, you need to set the feet end slightly higher than the head end when you set up when you put it between the two trees. So you can see in that image there actually. It stops you sliding down the hammock in the night and ended up in a big heap in the bottom in the morning. So if you
this is the thing. there's that. There's also, if you look at the image, he's not actually sleeping at it completely symmetrically. So he'll actually have, as you can see, and a lot of the images actually, people tend to lay across them. So you generally tend to have your head to one side and your feet out the other side, because you actually end up with a flatter sleeping posture.
A lot of people do that, like sleeping on their side.
Yeah, because otherwise you end up with a very kind of, I'm clearly not very good at describing this, but you end up with a very kind of U-shaped shape. And the problem I had was that my legs overextended. So whilst I was asleep, my knees were constantly...
Sorry, just sort of looking at Simon's comment there.
Oh, God, yeah.
I just instantly thought of you.
We'll come back to that in a sec. But yeah, so my knees were stretched out pretty much the whole night. And what it turned out, because I looked it up afterwards, is that you can actually overextend your knees slightly. So you're putting a lot of force on your knees for the whole night, because your legs are obviously trying to go up above you. So one of the things to either do is either sleep in the kind of weird configuration that they're showing there, or just tuck something under your knees, just to keep them slightly bent.
Could you not sleep with a leg either side of the hammock? Just have them hanging
I've done that as well. But when it's cold, or whatever, you can't do that, can you? I have done that. Yeah.
I'd love to see that.
I told you I'm not an expert hammock user.
Just like a frog just hanging off a leaf. Like,
I'm just sharing my knowledge. We'll come to Simon's comment in a sec. One of the other things I wanted to share is obviously rain. If you're in a hammock and it rains, hammocks are ideally suited to water running down the tree, running down your line of where you've connected your hammock, and then making your hammock very wet.
Yeah, drip lines, that's the key.
Yeah, so you definitely need drip lines, and these are basically, you can have them it's almost just like a little bit of paracord. You know, you just tie a little knot in that, and it just creates a low point that means that the water wants to go down the drip line rather than down your hammock string.
Because what you'll have is you'll have your heavy duty straps, if you like, you know, almost like a ratchet strap type material, so like a heavy duty webbing, isn't it? Which will be lashed around the tree, and it'll clip back onto a carabiner, which will then be onto a D-ring that your hammock material will be round. And it's that D-ring there, it's where the water tracks down. Obviously, it comes down the tree if it's raining, it soaks into the webbing strap, it then tracks down the webbing strap to that D-ring, and obviously makes its way around it onto your hammock material, and then continues down onto you, soaking your back and your arse, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
But if you have that bit of paracord tied off, hanging down, as the water tracks around the D-ring, it hits the paracord, and obviously the volume of water that's building up, it just drips straight down that and just soak down that. You might get a tiny little bit through the D-ring onto hammock. I've never had it before. So yeah, drip lines are essential for the metal D-rings either side of your hammock, guys. Camera's gone off again, but there we go.
Yeah. So just jumping into the chat, Simon says, how easy is a hammock to get out of? If you get bumped in the night, I would crease up if I saw someone fall out. So the first time I used a hammock, I fell out of it and ended up with one of the biggest bruises. The second biggest bruises of my life. I have a photo of it. I'm loath to share that on screen now, because I don't think anyone wants to see that. It was epic.
It was one of the...
hurt. Oh, he's got again. I think Lance was about to say it was one of the funniest things he's ever seen. Is he got?
I'm back. Hello.
Ah, cool. What were you saying? You got again. Oh.
Nightmare.
Back in?
Yes. Hello. Yes.
There we go.
It was literally the fastest speed I've ever seen someone go from being essentially 4 foot off the ground horizontally to 4 foot on the ground. I mean, we're talking within a split 0.5 of a second. He was up and he was down. It went. It was like ninja. And I was like, God, how the fuck did you?
I have a lot of mass, and I generally tend to make use of gravity quite a lot.
It was almost like a poltergeist who just tipped him out the hammock at like a serious rate of knots. I don't know how it just flipped. It's incredible. It was a lovely thing to see.
Thanks. One of the easiest ways to get out of a hammock or into it that I've found is literally, as just sort of saying earlier, drop your legs either side of the hammock, and then you can almost just sit up, and you're effectively like it's just slung between your legs, and then you just drop one leg over and you're out. It's a little bit harder when the hammock's under the basher, as in the photo.
That's quite difficult.
But, I mean, you are effectively, as soon as you're out of the hammock, you are completely free. I mean, I've slept in the hammock in full kit, and you can literally just roll out of it, and then you're ready to go.
Absolutely. I mean, and also when setting a hammock up, I mean, I've always done it. We might not work for everybody, but for me, personally, it worked that when you're putting your hammock out between two trees, I usually set it up so it's waist height as a good rough guide, and obviously make sure the leg end's slightly higher.
Yeah,
but
so
in the
none of
center. Could you imagine us not doing that?
That'd be a nightmare. I'd definitely fall out and take a lot of rest.
Nah, yeah, exactly. I'd make sure Stuart was in the top one. Stuart's the master of getting in the hammocks. But yeah, I'll make sure the hammock's set up so it's waist height. And obviously, when you sit back into it, then you've got your nice chair. So you can literally just sit there and DOS. I didn't say toss. You can just sit there, chill. You can sit back. You know, it's a little seat for you. And also, you can just kick back and swing your legs in and get some nice needed shut eye. But yeah, waist height essentially for when you're first setting it up and putting the webbing straps around the trees.
So just run into the chat. Jason Sladen, Helican Swagman makes a great hammock under blanket. It's a little bit like a bivvy. Yeah, I mean the one I've got is I think it might be Helican actually. Not sure. I'll have to double check that. I'll
we'll
have
to look. Like I say, it's something I don't own. I mean, I'll certainly have to do a bit of research on it and see if it's certainly worth getting. Especially, I suppose, particularly for winter camping and stuff like that, it's going to be an essential bit of kit, I suppose, for your sleep system. Is an under blanket or an under quilt, I suppose.
It does make a massive difference as well. Like, I mean, I went through two events fairly sort of close to each other, one with and one without, and it's definitely worth having if you're going to go with a hammock system. Gaz says I'd be too worried about the trees collapsing when I get in a hammock. Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, to be honest with you, I'm not one of the lightest people. I'm not going to go into my exact weight, but it is pushing up there. And as long as you've got one that's obviously rated to the appropriate weight that you want to use, it's not a problem. You can get double people hammocks if you want to, which obviously are rated a little bit higher. There are lots of images of hammocks on eBay which show elephants and stuff in. I don't think they take that much weight, but I think you are talking like, I think some of them take sort of 150 kilograms.
Well, I think some of the double ones, mate, are actually more than that. I think they're over the 200 kilo mark, the double ones. I mean, I'm 15 and a half, 16 stone. I mean, the one I've got, I mean, is absolutely mustard. I've taken that for a day out in the woods with my two children. We've done a little bit of a campfire cook up and things like that, and I've laid in the hammock. The two kids have climbed in. They're sort of, at the time would have been 7 and 9 now, so 6 and 8 maybe. So that's almost like two people in one hammock there, and it's been absolutely fine. You know what I mean? And that's even laying in there with kit on as well, like Mike said before. He's laid in his hammock with kit on, so. I'll definitely look into it. And I think what I'll do is I'll get some pictures of the one I got, and I've got mine from Amazon, and I've used it multiple times now. It's been absolutely fine. And I'll pop a link in our Nofos page on Facebook, because I believe, don't quote me, let me check it first, but I'm sure mine came with a lifetime guarantee or a lifetime warranty. And it wasn't overly expensive, and I'm talking under sort of 30 quid. This hammock was. It was sort of even between sort of 15 and 25 pound mark. What I paid for it, and it's a cracking little bit of kit. The webbing straps are sound, all the buckles and that have been absolutely fine. The D rings, no problems whatsoever with it. So, I mean, obviously you've got the top end, then you've got the low end stuff, which is obviously, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing mine. I don't know if I'd class mine as a low end. I'd class it as a cheap hammock, but quality wise, I can't fault it for quality. Can you get something that's cheap but really good quality? I don't know, but my one's been absolutely fine. So.
Yeah, I would completely agree to that sentiment. I mean, obviously, make sure your D-rings, if you're going to be attaching any of your own sort of customized kit to it. So for mine, for example, didn't come with straps to attach it to trees. So I went and bought a set off of, I think it was eBay for like a $5 or something like that. And they've got like adjustable loops in there, so you can just quickly set it up to whatever you need. I bought some D-rings for it as well. I think I actually bought carabiners, to be fair, just like classic carabiners. Sort of super lightweight hiking ones, so they're designed to take a sort of quite a sizable weight on there as well. But no, I've never had a problem with it. I'll be honest with you, when you first get into it, every time I set it up, I do sort of feel like, oh, is this going to work?
You'll get that donk. You'll sit in it and it'll go donk like that. And that's the webbing straps just finding the tension where they're taking up the slack basically. And then once you've done it, that's just like, oh, this is incredible. And you get that nice little blow from the breeze, and you just start swinging and swaying.
There is nothing nicer than listening to the rain in your hammock, because it's one of the best nights' sleep I've ever had in the woods.
For lightweight wild camping or MilSim events, and you're in a wood block and you have to set up a sleep system, if you can get a hammock with a basher over the top of it, you will not go wrong for a cracking night's bit of kit. You really won't. You can't. I don't think you can get better than that. And obviously, it's more. It keeps the weight down. It keeps the size of the kit you've got to take with you. The hammock's tiny. The basher's small. The strap-in, the paracord, jungle knots, blah blah blah, that comes along with it essentially is small. Again, you're still going to take your DOS bag, but you're going to take that regardless of what you're sleeping on the floor or whatever. So
With my my hammock set up, I can get the full setup in a rocket pouch.
Nice.
So that's everything, absolutely everything. So that works quite well.
Yeah, nice.
Rage File says you can put these low profile inflatable ground mats in them. They pack down really small as well. The ones that are about 1.5 inch thick. Yep. So again, you don't. You can go with sort of the inflatable ground mats and stuff. You just lay that in the base of that and you sleep on that. So again, it's just adding that insulation between you and obviously the fact that there's a void underneath you.
Yeah, I mean, do you use a mat or anything in yours, Mike? Because I've never used a ground mat or anything.
I use my quilt, so I'm fine.
I suppose, yeah, but you're not essentially laying on it, are you? As a bit of added insulation, your arse,
I guess. Yeah.
It's not taking any weight or slack off of the hammock. It's just wrapping around the hammock, isn't it? So there's a void between the outer edge of the hammock and the inside edge of your wraparound. There is a void essentially there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know about having
I have
an inflatable mat in there. Whether it be I'd like to Rage if he can expand on that. Like obviously getting in and out of it is it obviously it must be comfortable if he's used it in a hammock. But I wonder if it's be a bit of a ball ache trying to get onto a sleeping mat. I mean, it's not the easiest of things until you've done it a couple of times, getting in a hammock without having a mat in there. But I could sort of picture it being a bit of a nightmare trying to make sure it stays under you and as such. Do you know what I mean? But I might be wrong. I probably am. I normally am. But I've never tried one in a hammock before, so it'd be something else to have a little go at when we can get back outside.
I mean, when I was researching the underquilts and stuff, because I didn't know underquilts existed. I just googled hammock cold arse, and then it started coming up with
all sorts of websites.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there are a number of ways that you can sort of get around it, and sort of recommend sort of like a bit of research. There's quite a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff. At some point when we get out and about, it'll be nice to sort of see, maybe we can get our own little clips and stuff to kind of talk about our own individual setups and things.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's been so difficult to try and get some sort of media content to go along with our sort of our discussions and that such, because obviously we can't get anywhere. And prior to us deciding to start doing a podcast, I mean, you take a couple of pictures at an event or a MilSim, but never to go as far as to actually going into the depths of it, into the inner sanctum of a hammock. And getting
it's more just like, look at me with my airsoft gun.
It's sort of like, yeah, here's me with the lads. And here's me going home, and that's the end of my. As soon as I get back, when we start, did you get any pictures? I said, I think I took one in the car by accident on the way down there. That's about it.
Ragefast says he's come back and said it makes getting in and out of a bit harder, but once you are used to it, it's fine. It gives a bit of structure to the hammock too. I use a Berghaus one that's about as wide as my shoulders. So yeah, no, okay. I can see the advantage.
Yeah, good shout, mate. Fair enough. Yeah, certainly give that a go.
Wayne, hi Wayne.
Evening,
I've got an old NATO poncho that doubles up as a basher. I'm yet to try it as a basher. So I've used. I should have done some research on this before I said. I think it's the Helicon Tex poncho that's got like the press studs and everything in it as well. So I've used that as a assistant basher per se. So I had a basher as well. So I set the bash up in like just a normal A-frame all the way along like a tunnel. But then I was finding, because I'd set it up in a stupid position, I was getting a load of wind coming straight through the basher. So I used the poncho as like an end cap, but also doubled up as like a little storage area as well. So yeah, they're quite useful. I haven't slept under one per se, because I was always a little bit conscious of the fact that ponchos obviously have a hole in them where the neck goes. Now I know you can tighten that up, but I just don't trust my luck not to wake up in the middle of the night with a wet head or something like that. But I'm not saying that you can't use it. It's just I've not used it myself. How about you, Lance?
Sorry, mate. I was just trying to look at my tech there, so I missed that last little bit. But poncho wise, no, I've used one once, and I'll tell you what I did. For a basic sort of shelter system was with the hood. Obviously, pulled it in as tight as I possibly could, and what you'd normally use to sort of create a point, a pitch in the middle of it, would be as like a smooth round stone or something like that. And what you do is you put it up in the hood, and if you get a bit of paracord, put a loop in one end of the paracord to sort of tie it back on itself, create a loop, and then you wrap that round the material that's got the stone or the pebble up inside it, and then you put it tight, and then you can lash that up to a branch above you, and then obviously that'll create your apex into the center of the poncho, and then you just peg out the four corners, and you've got like a pyramid-esque type sort of basher poncho shape. I've done that before, and failing that, you can use a big wad of grass and just whack it in the hood, just so something that the rope's got something to bite round. I mean, some people have gone as far as to put a tennis ball in there and use that as like the choke point for the knot to go up. But yeah, it's been all right. I'm not sure if a poncho is the same size as a basher. I think it's a little bit smaller. To me, it felt smaller. I don't think I've got a proper MOD poncho though. I think it's a aftermarket sort of Civvy Street one that sort of looks like a OD green poncho, if you like. So it felt smaller. I felt a bit tighter in there than I did with using a basher. So yeah, I mean, for me, a basher all the way. Poncho for knocking about him, I wouldn't necessarily rely on it as a proper shelter unless I absolutely have to, or maybe an add-on to a basher. Perhaps you could use it as a bit of a windbreak or something on one side, or box an end off. Perhaps if the wind's sort of coming in horizontal or the rain is, maybe you could sort of looking at adding it to the basher setup that way. But yeah, I tried it once and I found it a bit restrictive and keeping your kit under there and stuff like that. So
no fair right, sorry, I'm using a laptop to run the presentation tonight because it just makes it a lot easier. But I thought I'd just look up something quick. So we're now just going to talk about tents. So I have. Please excuse my Google search of military tent. This was the one I specifically wanted to talk about. Is the French surplus F1, or I think they do an F2 as well. Do they?
I think they do. Yeah. I mean, the surplus French military or NATO, the F1 tent. Yes, that is the one I've got has been an absolute beast, cracking bit of kit. So
I've really not used these. I have used a Banshee, which is the sort of the 2-3 man tent.
Was that the Vango one you said about?
Yeah, it's not a tactical one in any way. I mean, it's light green, bright green. I think actually I might have a picture of that on here. Yeah, I mean, it looks effectively like that for all intensive purposes. Right. So I mean, I have used one of those before. It was the Falklands MilSim we went on. It was particularly cold and wet. We'd been running around all day, and I set this one up in the dark. But it's just a small little tent, and it was nice. It was just good to get a bit of shelter away. But if I'll let you talk about the French ones, Lance, because I've not used those.
Yeah, I used this on the DEA event in the summer, just because I think I only got it prior to that event, and it was good as gold. Plenty of space in there. Obviously, down one side you've got your sleep system, and then obviously opposite you can lay out your Bergen, lay out your plate carrier or your webbing, easy access to all your kit. I then used it again at the Dark Water event, where it was horrendously raining, and I think we teamed up with the Gravy Seals. I don't know if you made that event or not, Mike. I don't remember you being there for that one.
I don't think I was there.
I'm trying to think who was there.
They all merge into one.
Me, Dan, Mark Kettles. I'm trying to think. I think Dom might have been there, perhaps. But anyhow, and I took this down there. Obviously, because I hadn't tried it in the rain, it was forecast to be a bit rubbish. I had the basher in the bag, 'cause it's nice and small. I took this down there and I set this up, and it rained. I mean, a proper big fat rain, proper rain, and there was not a drop of water inside that tent for the entire weekend. Actually, that's a lie. There was a tiny little drop right by the front door. That's where I left the zip open a little bit, where I was going out quick. But for that entire weekend, when I come back to that tent to break it down at the end of the weekend, it was absolutely bone dry in there. Fantastic bit of kit. And I was very impressed. And I paid about 40 quid for it off eBay. And that, folded down and packed away properly, will fit in one rocket pouch of a Bergen, believe it or not. And that's including the poles. And I've done it. So, for a lightweight tent, even for a little quick overnight camp somewhere, I don't think you could go far wrong with that. One of them. Pole at each end, guy lines, peg it out, job done, sewn in ground sheet. You're not going to get any creepy crawlies in there. Keeps the wind out. It's got an overlapping storm flap, which extends out over to the each edge of the A-frame on each side. You can see there where the actual the 3 guy lines down each side peg out to. So it's got like an oversized storm flap, if you like, over at the base of on each side. Yeah, cracking bit of kit. Couldn't fault it whatsoever. Really good.
How much do you reckon you've used that in comparison to your other systems?
I mean, out of the events I've done since I've had it, I mean, like I said, I only ever do MilSim with it. I mean, I've used it for a wild camp probably 2 or 3 times. I've used it probably on about 3 or 4 MilSims, and I've never had any problems with it. I mean, to be fair, the times I have used it, it's only rained sort of twice using that tent, and it was obviously the dark water one was the real, the real test for it, if you like, because I mean, I'm not kidding you, it rained all day, and I did expect it to sort of after a while start to soak through, get some really bad damp patches on it, and obviously after a while there's only so much water it can cope with before it starts penetrating. But I'm absolutely being genuine. Whether I got lucky and it had been treated or it was some sort of random material that had been used, I don't know. But for me, that was absolutely. But I was shocked to come back to it and find not a bullet drop of water in the main area of the tent, apart from it. And there was a tiny little tea saucer sized puddle right at the front of the tent, and that's purely from my own fault of not making sure I'd put the zips shut together at the base there, where the bottom of the pole is there. Just behind that pole is where the zips meet, and that's purely my fault for not doing that. But yeah, I'm very impressed with it. Really good bit of kit.
Cool. I mean, there's obviously other tents out there on the market. I mean, I'd say I just sort of googled hiking tents. I mean, any of these, sort of systems, they obviously, you want something that packs up small. For anyone that's sort of been camping with sort of even just normal small tents, you're still talking about quite a sizable bag when it's all packed down. I mean, Rage has come to the defense of Vango tents in the chat, saying don't knock Vango tents, best tent for the money you can if in a budget. I completely agree.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah,
the Vango Banshee 300, I think was the one I bought, is amazing. You can put it up in 15 minutes. It's got loads of really quite funky features that sort of keep it upright, and I think it's got like wind tension straps and things that you can adjust from the inside. And it's completely agree. They are really good. The only downside to them, I guess, in the tiniest way, is just the fact that they are lime green rather than like an OD green. It'll be quite. I think they used to do them in like a more of an OD, which is like the one shown there. But I think
one Tigress do a similar sort of tent, and they steer more to the military OD green sort of in colour. So it may be worth looking at that, one of them guys. But again, I mean, let's remember, let's not poo-poo the cheaper versions or cheaper variants of tent systems or shelter systems until and it's a big reminder to obviously do your research before you make a purchase on anything to do with MilSimming or wild camping or anything outdoors activity. Do your research on it, make sure it's right for what you want it to do. I mean, if you're new to it, new to MilSimming, ask for advice. There's plenty of people out there that happily offer you advice of what they use and what's worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. So that, the main thing is, guys, before you go, if you look at something and think, oh, it looks really cool, and then you order it, and then 20 minutes later you think, oh, just I'm going to read some of the reviews, and you think, oh Christ, it's terrible. Oh God, what have I done? I've done it. Trust me, I've done it. I've ordered something and then read the reviews afterwards and gone, oh God, idiot. Do that for?
I don't know if this is just me. Does everyone else, and I'd be interested, please put it in the comments if you do. Does anyone else have like a box of stuff that they've bought? They might have used at one event and then gone, yeah, nah. But then obviously because you've used it, it's become a little bit dirty or whatever, or slightly tarnished or whatever. So you can't send it back, and you're just like, oh, it's just in a box somewhere.
I might have a couple of them.
Yours are all full of pouches, aren't they?
Oh, piss off! Don't you start. But I totally hear you, mate. Yeah, and it's obviously you learn from your mistakes, don't you? I mean, it's something at the time of ordering, you think that'll work well, and when you try it, unfortunately it doesn't. It could be a bit gimmicky or something like that, but you're not going to know until you tried it. So it keeps it
No, I mean,
interesting,
there's
doesn't
some
it?
of it, some personal preference as well. But
Exactly,
yeah.
absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. And it's all down to personal preference.
I'm a bit of a hoarder. I just don't want to get rid of stuff, so I just put it in a box up in the loft. I've genuinely got like this massive box of stuff. So maybe I'll have to go to a boot fair at some point.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah.
So, just jumping into the chat, Simon Topley says, I used a cheap tent and the Falklands sim with Val, and it had poor ventilation. We woke up struggling to breathe, and I had to abandon it. Make sure you get a decent one. That sounds bad.
Terrifying. Yeah.
That sounds horrible. I hope you're both okay. Yeah, obviously you want to try and get a tent with proper sort of ventilation.
And that, with that, actually, Simon makes a good point there. Obviously, guys, if you are at an event and it is very, very cold, and how tempting it is to light a heater or a sort of lamp, or maybe brew up inside your tent. For God's sake, make sure you've got the doors open. I mean, even outside it, I mean, I really wouldn't recommend having a jet boil going inside your tent, guys. I mean, you don't know what the fire retardantness of the tent is for a start. Just for peace of mind. And if you are storing a cook set in your tent overnight, make sure you unscrew that gas can and put it outside, just for the safety side of it, guys. Honestly, the amount of I do a lot of carp fishing. Well, got back into it in the last sort of year or so, and the horror stories of grown ass men who have had heaters going in the tents, nodded off, and that's been the last sleep they've had. So yeah, can't stress how important it is to make sure you've got your tent, like Simon said, they're well ventilated, not only for when you're sleeping, but also for if you are cooking or you do have some sort of heater, which is obviously sucking the oxygen out of the air and releasing carbon monoxide. It goes without saying, it is a silent killer. You can't smell it. You know what I mean? You can't see it. You can't hear it. So yeah, ventilation, guys, and be sensible when you're cooking up, or if you spot someone else doing it, don't think, maybe I should I go? Yeah, absolutely, tell them, regardless, just say, mate, think about it. They might tell you to fuck off, mind your own business. I know what I'm doing, and if that's the case, then fair enough. But at least you're safe in the mind. You've said, look, mate, you should be doing that. So that's just a little safety point there, guys. Be very, very careful with it. That's that little bit from me. on
that happy note, Ray Charles says,
sorry about that.
Sorry, no, that's fine. Ray Charles said, put your basher over it. Yes, I mean, obviously with any sort of tent. I mean, I've seen guys go to their first MilSim and they brought something almost effectively the color of that yellow one on the screen. You can't just whack a basher over it, camo net, anything like that. It doesn't really, to be honest, make a huge difference. It's just a personal preference of mine. Just like to try and blend it as much as possible, really. Rage File says there's a limit to how small you can get with a tent pack down to. I've got Rab and Marmot tents that are light and small but expensive. Yeah, I mean, obviously, with any sleep system, as Rage is saying, obviously, these things will only go down to a certain size because you still have the volume of whatever that thing is. You're never going to get it.
My 2-man Polish Lavu tent I've got, which is essentially it's 2 Polish military ponchos buttoned together down each side. With a set of poles, goes up through the middle. Essentially a TP tent. Absolutely indestructible. I mean, that's been up in horrendous winds. It's not even moved. And it's literally one pole up in the middle of the tent. The pole goes up into the middle of the hoods of the ponchos, which are buttoned together. It's all pegged round. I think there's 8 pegs in total, perhaps. And it's essentially a TP triangular type shape, if you like. And absolutely hard as nails, a heavy. I wouldn't necessarily say it'd be for a MilSim unless you're doing some sort of era, sort of 60s, 50s type-esque reenactment, perhaps somewhere. But certainly for some wild camping or hot tenting, where you can use a wood burning stove, a little small ammo can size wood burning stove inside a Polish Lavu tent. There's a Facebook group, the Lavu Owners Club sort of thing, which you can look up. Some cracking pictures on there of it. And another option, guys, but it's compared to other tents that are available of the same size, it is probably 4 or 5 times the size of it. It's a bulky bit of kit. So, but yeah, and another little option there, the Polish Lavu. More nostalgic than anything, you know what I mean? The old smell of canvas and how if it gets rained on,
like scout tent type thing.
It is, mate. It is. You've got to set it up in the rain when you first get it to make sure the fibers expand in the moisture, and that's what makes it waterproof, basically. So, yeah, it's a good bit of kit. Very expensive to get hold of now.
Cool. Right, so last one we want to talk about in particular was the bivvy bag.
Yes.
Now, obviously, bivvy bags are pretty much like the smallest, I would say, of the sleep systems that you're going to have in terms of your actual space. So obviously, a tent gives you probably, arguably, the most space. Basher probably the second. Hammocks, I would say, is probably less than a basher along the lines of, whilst you do have stuff, you've got space obviously underneath the basher and the hammock that you can store stuff. It's probably the most exposed still. But then obviously the bivvy bag is effectively, it's like a sleeping bag tent. I've not used one of these. I believe you have, Lance.
I've got a bivvy bag and it goes as standard. I mean, obviously, unless I'm using my hammock. But then, having said that, I have stepped in my bivvy bag inside my hammock with my DOS bag inside it. I mean, obviously, that's a hooped bivvy one. So probably a sort of Dutch Army or something like that. You can get them. I mean, I've only ever seen them for sort of like the 80 to 100 pound sort of mark. For the hooped bivvy bag, or sometimes they're known as a special forces shelter sort of thing, like one man, sort of recon shelter. A bivvy bag, for me personally, alongside your roll mat or your insulated mat, your sleeping bag, your bivvy bag, and your basher. That's probably your four essential bits of kit for your first starting out sleep system. You need a roll mat, a DOS bag, a bivvy bag, and a basher. And that would be the four things that I personally, for me, it's an essential piece of kit to your sleep system, that bivvy bag. Not only can it act as a shelter, but even if you've just taken purely the bivvy bag just to climb into, just to get that wind chill off of you, perhaps get out the rain. I mean, again, it's quite a really versatile piece of kit, and it does compact down nice and small. Can obviously compare. Obviously, it won't do when you got because I always pack mine away with my DOS bag inside it. So obviously it's the size of the sleeping bag when it's all compacted down, but you can scrunch them up relatively small, really, in essence. So yeah, a great bit of kit. And if like I said, we've said previously, if you've not got one of these, highly recommend you get one for your sleep system. Really good.
Yeah, I mean, I've got one. Sorry, I've never used it. I've never used it as like an individual sleep system, so I've never just been in a bivvy bag. I found the one I've bought, you can wrap yourself in completely. You can zip it all the way around, and it was a little bit claustrophobic for me. So I actually went to the effort of stitching in some mosquito netting that you can zip up. So you can unzip the bivvy bag, and then you've still got like a mosquito net screen to try and keep bugs out. I'm not the most squeamish with bugs, but I don't like the idea of spiders crawling in my mouth when I'm asleep. Having been in a situation on one of the MilSims, I think it was actually at Octo 8, where I got bitten by something in my sleep and my entire hand swelled up. Obviously that wasn't you could well have died that night, mate, if it hadn't have been for Tony being there with his little torch. If it hasn't been for old Black Widow, fighting him off. Yeah. But in all seriousness, my hand did swell up. Something bit me in the night. And I actually invested in one of the British Army like mosquito net tents. That you can kind of sit on a camper bed or anything like that. So it's basically like it's almost like a little child's creche tent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've invested
essentially the size, length, and width of a cot bed, and it just sits on the top of it, and you can get a massive, great big, thick mattress which goes inside that, which looks really luxurious. But again, if you're going out in the field, you're not going to want to taking a big folded mattress down. The
bunk bed thing was about like that, so it's pretty small and fit in a Bergen if I need it. But I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't get it for that. But the going back to the bivvy bags, the mosquito netting just means I can breathe a lot easier, without that risk of being completely exposed per se. Yeah. But yeah. Gaz says bivvy bags are a must-have, even in a tent.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Totally agree with that.
Rage says, can't count how many times I've wild camped with the bivvy tent and basher, proper low profile and light, and worked really well in the UK.
Definitely, mate. Yeah, a lot of my early MilSims, all it was a basher and a bivvy bag, and I've still got the basher I've got now is the one I got the War and Peace Revival, which handily enough came with every single eyelet with jungle knots that a trooper had kindly installed prior to obviously demobbing and then it being sold to me. So what is a jungle knot? I'm going to have to Google this quickly.
A
jungle knot, mate, it's not quite paracord that they use. It's more of a string-based sort of heavy-duty string I'd like to say. I mean, Gaz, the likes of Gaz and Rage and that would probably be able to correct me on actual what they actually use. Some sort of cordage, a strong cordage. And essentially what you do is you get like a
Sorry,
three...
I've just Googled it. And this is literally what has just come up when I've Googled jungle knot.
Yeah, that's exactly
sorry,
that.
no,
Like
you know why? You know why?
This
Because I've binged it. I'll probably better actually Google it because...
If you type, maybe add British Army or something like that to it. No.
Just because I'm imagining there's a few people in the chat that probably don't know what they are.
I mean, it's essentially it's a section of cordage which is I'd say probably 4 meters long, and it's doubled up. So then you've got a double length bit of 2 meters then, and you thread that through the eyelets of your basher, and then you incrementally tie it into a knot every. I'll probably say the width of your hand, maybe slightly more. So you do a knot, then you do put a hand's width next to that knot. Do another one, and then you'll have a series of knots all the way down the guy line. And what you can essentially do with that then, Mike, is wrap it around a tree, and then you pull one knot through the other knot, and it holds fast. It won't move.
Right. Okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So rather than having to wrap a single bit of power
system type thing,
pretty much, mate. Yeah, it's like a quick release system, if you like. So rather than having to wrap it around a tree, a single piece of paracord, then tie it off in some weird and wonderful knot, and then like have a bow there, so it's quick release. You go around the tree. You weave it back through the knot, and then it's the knot that pulls back to the previous knot, and they just bite against each other, and that it's not going to go anywhere.
Okay.
And then obviously,
then
to take it down, you just pop it out, pull it out of the loop that you've created between the two knots, and that's it. It's undone. And obviously, they'll stay on there all the time. Some guys have their bashers tailored to have little pockets put at the corner of each eyelet. So if you're not using two of the guy lines or two of the jungle knot guy lines, you can just tuck them into a little pocket with the Velcro, so it's out of the way. It's not a trip hazard. It's not going to get tangled up and stuff like that. So yeah, they're a wicked bit of kit. There's a fair few videos on YouTube, guys. If you look at how to tie jungle knots onto a basher or something like that, they're very simple guidance there on how to do it. And once it's on there, it's on there. Then you never have to worry about it again. You're always going to have your guy lines on there. You're always going to have your ridge line on your basher. So it's something that you haven't got to faff about with when you get to your fob or your hardware area to set up. So
cool. Mark Hutchins says hi. Evening, chap.
Evening,
Hello.
Sir.
Thanks for joining.
Sir. Thanks for joining us, mate.
So that's pretty much the sleep systems we were going to talk about. I say there was obviously Tim's one that he submitted earlier.
Look
in the day.
Camo, I love it.
So I mean that's obviously an alternative for a static event potentially.
Cracking bit of kit, the luxury, yes.
Yeah, that's a commander's vehicle if anything.
Yeah, and it'd be quite handy actually to sleep next. You'd be able to remove your iPro for a little while. Just flicking V's out the window.
Yeah.
No, you're not coming in.
So, guys, if there are any other questions or has anybody got anything else they want to just throw into the chat, I'll leave it a quick few minutes just to cover that. In the meantime, let's just remind you that if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at nofochat@hotmail.com. Our Instagram is nofo_foxtrot_ no. Sorry, I get this wrong every week now. This is
every
classic.
week. It was Thunderscore last week. Thunderscore.
November_Foxtrot_Nofo for our Instagram. Facebook is at November Foxtrot Nofo, and our YouTube is November Foxtrot. Yeah, I will get those right at some point. And apologies to everyone that might have been waiting for any of our Instagram posts this week. I've got a new phone, and it would appear that whilst I was trying to post stuff for some reason wasn't actually leaving my phone and joining everybody else on the internet, which wasn't much fun. So, apologies for that. Next week, we're going to be discussing hydration systems. So, obviously hydration is important. I want to make sure that nobody's getting dehydrated because it can make your event a bit shitty if you're feeling rubbish.
And after doing my level 3 first aid course today,
congratulations.
Quite a bit about hydration. Thank you very much. Pass with flying colours, I might add. Left an apple on teacher's desk.
So, we're talking about hydration systems. Again, if anybody's got any ideas for future content, please by all means send us in. You can either send them to us on the Facebook or anything like that, or you can contact us directly on our Instagram names are below. So I'm the 9-volt Airsoft, and Lance is the underscore punishment. The underscore punishment, or whatever it is. The underscore punished underscore one.
Just
there
quit
you go.
now. Just stop. Stop digging.
I give up. Gaz says blame technology, Mike. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, bloody technology. Oh, rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah. Here we go. Ray says level 3. Can you do trackies now?
No, I would do, but someone's pinched all the kit from the NHS, so it's unavailable. You're right. You wouldn't have to know anything about that, would you? No, it's actually a very good course. Actually, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of the 2 courses in my line of work that I do that actually get a bit of a good kick from, and you actually learn something that you take away from it. It's to be the first aid and the confined spaces course. I always enjoy crawling through tunnels, recovering dummies with breathing apparatus on. It's always good fun. So
cool. I feel like I'm having a conversation with AI at the moment. It's like
I'm here, mate. Don't worry, I'm here.
A buffering circle. Yeah. Right. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. We now have an outro video. I give up. I don't know what's going on.
Suddenly got hello, everybody. This is Mike.
Simon says, does this mean Lance gets a new level 3 pouch? That'll be the next one. There'll be some ridiculous medic system.
You not take the piss now in this chat. You wait. You'll get yours, don't you?
I'm working on a special patch for you, Lance, by the way, just so you're aware.
I've not got an issue with pouches, all right?
No, not pouch, patch.
My name is Lance, and I do not have an issue with pouches. Welcome, Lance.
Gaz just says, give up, Mike, go bed. Yeah, I definitely need to. It's been a long week. No, but thanks to my brother who he put the intro video together for us, and we now actually have an outro video as well. It's fairly similar to the intro video. At some point, we'll be recording something a bit special.
Is it the fox's head facing the other way?
That would be amazing, but no, it's
just
not.
The back of the head. I literally thought, this is comedy genius. I've thought about on the spot then.
I know. What Terry just said, what's in my glass? It's just lemonade. It's just been a long week.
You need to get on the gin, mate. I tell you, this is where you're going wrong, Mike.
I know. The problem is, I don't start this into a sharing is caring video, but basically my wife being very pregnant, she's tossing and turning in her sleep, which means that I'm not getting a lot of sleep. So
It's very inconsiderate of her.
Sleeping on the sofa to try and get a better kip, and it turns out my cat's like waking me up at 4:30 in the morning. So yeah. Anyway,
that's a different story.
Yeah. On that note, see you later. Bye. Oh, I played the wrong video as well.
I thought I could instantly see the difference. It must have taken ages to put that together.
Oh, blimey. I'll just give up. Right. I'm going to play the right one, and we'll see you all next week. I'll make sure.
Take care, guys. Be safe. See you soon.
Bye.